Hello and welcome back to Conversational, the podcast. I'm very, very excited to introduce our guest today, who many of you will recognize. Our guest is an actress, newly an author, and quite frankly, she's a viral sensation. So, with that in mind, I'd like to welcome Cheryl Fergison. Cheryl, how are you doing?
Hello, my love. How are you?
All
You all
good, all
good?
good. Excited
Great.
to chat to you today.
Yeah,
We've
all
got
good.
Cheryl on today because Cheryl's newly released her life story, and as our viewers know, our podcast is a bit of a life stories style podcast. So we go through from start to finish. So we'll hear a little bit about your life today.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to say as well, I was flicking through the book, and Steve McFadden, who's obviously your co-star on EastEnders, he says that when Cheryl tells a story, people listen. She's engaging and holds a court like no one else. So I'll look forward to hearing your stories today.
Well, look, I look forward to sitting there on the throne holding court for everybody else. No, I mean he's a very generous guy, Steve is, and he was had a very well deserved NTA recently, 35 years of of all his fantastic and beyond acting actually. But he's a really generous guy. He's not Phil Mitchell. He's Steve McFadden, and we are actors, and they people come up to him and sort of square up to him in the street sometimes, and they used to in the old days. Wanting to have a little fight, see if they can fight Phil Mitchell. But he's just a family man at heart. He doesn't want to go around beating anyone up. It's not his kind of thing. So, it just shows what a fantastic character he's played in EastEnders for all this time. And I'm proud of my big brother. You know what I mean? I'm really proud of him. So, yeah.
Has anyone ever tried to come and square up to you in the street?
Oh well, the thing is, playing Heather. If I was walking down the street with Linda Henry, who used to play Shirley, they would avoid her like the plague. They'd literally walk around her. But with me, they come up and they feel like they can cuddle me or give me a kiss or something. They would absolutely in my face. And little did they know, sometimes I could be Shirley, and Shirley could be Hev. You know what I mean? I'd be going, oh my God, they're coming towards me, Linda. They're coming towards me, and she'd go, it's all right, Cheryl, calm down, calm down. It was a bit like that. We kind of had each other's backs a lot of the time. And I think, to be quite honest with you, I only ever really I don't like to get annoyed with people coming up to me and stuff, because I don't believe in that. We're only there for the grace of the people that watch us and pay for us to be there, to be quite honest. But they pay our wages. That's how I see it. You watch us, you want to see us back on your telly more, or whatever. If I can do it, I will. I mean, there's only been one occasion, and it was in my book, that I was absolutely gobsmacked, uh, and the reaction to this person was vile, to be quite honest with you. And that was the day, the night actually, that my father passed away, and I was in hospital, and I was with him. I was the only sibling, and his then wife was there, and he passed away in front of us, and it was obviously quite traumatic. And I kind of gathered my thoughts and thought, I have to go and let my siblings know. I have to go and let his other children know. So I went to go and make a phone call, and this woman, I was obviously visibly upset, but this woman kind of came up to me and said, "Oh, can I have a picture? Can I have a selfie?" And it was like in the night. It was in the middle. It was the night, and I sort of I thought, can she not sense that there's something not quite right with me? And I said, I'm really sorry, I can't at the minute. I need to. And before I could do that, she basically laid into me saying, "Oh my God, you lot think you're it, don't you? You lot think that's it. You're up your own backsides and things like that." And I was like, that woman just doesn't realize that my dad has just passed away, and I can't smile and take a picture with you. And it was the only time I literally felt like I don't like this. I don't like this game anymore. People cannot be sensitive. We can't have off days. We can't have days where, you know, I think that's the thing that I'm trying to make people aware of. We're human beings. We're the same as everybody else. We're just lucky and blessed to be doing a job that we absolutely love. Most of us, we love this job. We're so privileged. In fact, and that's a word I don't often use, but we're privileged to be in that position, especially on such a leading soap, in the UK, like all the other soaps. It's iconic, and it's there, and we're in people's front rooms however many times a night. So they do feel like they own us, but at the same time, they don't reflect, they don't see that we might have to have a bit of a life sometimes. And that, I get people coming up to me when I'm in Lidl going, "What are you doing in here?" And I go, "What are you doing in here?" And they go, "We're shopping." And I go, well, that's what I'm doing. And it's a little bit like some people cannot, they either can't or they don't want to see us as different. And I'm trying to say we're the same. We bleed the same. We have to pay bills the same. We struggle the same. We have issues in our life that are the same. You know, we're probably going through some things that similarly that you're going through. But for some reason, just because that box on the wall projects us in your front room and gives you like access to us as characters, not as people, unless we're going to do an interview or something, then that kind of sort of, you know, it's great to get involved in the show, but also just step away from it and think, if I see that person in the street and they've got their head down or they're doing something, can you just, it might be a missed opportunity for you, but at the same time they might be having traumas or something might be going through their mind. If they accidentally pass you and they think, and you think, oh god, they're stuck up, it's not. It's because our heads are going 20 to the dozen with scripts or with personal worries or with, you know, just trying to get a flipping appointment for the doctor on the phone. Whatever it is, we're just like everybody else. And I just think we need to, as humans, just take a wee step back, take a breath, and then go, you know, it's not all about selfies on a phone anymore. It's about making memories. If that person's in your memory and they smiled at you when you went past, or they just at least said hello, that should be all it takes. It's like going to a concert. Everybody's there with their phones trying to do the concert, you know. And I think, oh, for God's sake, just enjoy the moment, enjoy the concert. That concert will be on film for you to watch it. You can say one day, I was there, not through your phone, not through you singing out a tune on it, but because you know, you just want to make that memory with your person you're with, or if you're on your own, just to say, wow, that was an experience. But you can't see half the time because people's arms are in your face. Do you know what I mean? Like doing it. And I feel that's a little bit sad, really. But maybe it'll come around a bit, like fashion. You know, some things go in and out of fashion, and hopefully the sticking an arm up in the air might go out of fashion one day. I don't know, but
You'd hope so.
not in my lifetime, probably. But there we go.
When we all have robot eyes and we can all just rewind and see what we've looked at, then we won't need them. But
Black
it's a
Mirror is
really,
upon us very
yeah,
soon. I
Black
think
Mirror
Black
indeed.
in
It's a
the
really eloquent way of putting it, and I suppose with a career like yours, where you've been in the soaps, I think because people see these soap characters more than they probably see some members of their own family, because it's on
yeah.
every single night. They probably feel even more connected, and they feel like they know you, but really they don't know anything about you, you know, and until your
No,
comes out anyway.
that's true. And I think the thing is that you know, we used to say it as well when we were at EastEnders, that you know, being there, we were there more times and hours of the day than we were with our own families. So they were like a family. So I think that's what happens, and I think that's what happens in life. You shouldn't be I think we beat ourselves up too much, just in terms of we make friends with people, we are intense with those people. In our business, it can get quite intense because you're working with them solidly and you're expected to kind of be with that person for the rest of their days. Now, that's not, that's nice. It's nice to get back to some nature. It's nice to have some time for myself. It's nice to breathe. It's nice to turn my phone off. It's, you know, if people will either know where I am. So if there's a major emergency, they'll know I'm in the middle of the lake in the Lake District. That's what they need to know. And so, you know, 2 hours for myself just is nothing. And I think, you know, I'm maybe lucky enough and old enough to be able to do that now. And then you've got young people, young mums or dads with children, and they're in flats and they're in high rises and they've got two kids, and the kids are driving them potty, and they don't even have a balcony as an outside space. And you know, they must be going absolutely cracker barrels sometimes, because kids can drive you completely nuts. And I think the thing is if you can't get them out, if you can't organise to get them out for, you know, there's nothing wrong with putting them in front of a telly for half an hour so that you can go and have a cup of tea and just breathe a bit, or just when they're having a nap, just don't worry about the hoovering. Hoovering can wait. Don't worry about that. Just take that 10-15 minutes to just make yourself feel better so that you can cope with the rest of the day with those kids, with whatever else that you've got going on. And I just think we don't do enough for ourselves. We see it as selfish, and it's not selfish to be like well. Do you know what I
Mm.
mean? It's not selfish to do
Yeah,
that.
I mean, I have to say, I've only asked a few questions, but I'm quite
Sorry,
impressed at how.
I do
No,
natter on.
well,
I'm so
I
sorry.
was gonna say it's actually, I was gonna give you a compliment. I think you're a wonderfully self-reflective person. Everything you've said, you've brought around to almost like a moral or something that you've learned throughout your life, which I think is beautiful. I think you're clearly at the stage in your life and a confidence in yourself enough that have sort of taken things that you've learned and you're kind of
Yeah.
spreading that with the world, which I think is beautiful, really.
I think with like, for example, in the book, it's taken a lot of years to get that book written because
Mm,
there's a lot of stuff in it that needed to be processed. And I think that there's amazing stories in there. It's funny, you cry, you laugh, you gasp, you do all those kinds of things. And you don't believe some of it. You look at it and think, did that really happen? Can that happen? And then you just reflect on your own life and go, actually, yes, it can, because that nearly happened to me, or that did happen to me, or gosh, that could have happened to me. So I think what it is we over the years, and especially recently, I've had a stroke. I had a stroke in May, and I'm coming on leaps and bounds, and I'm so blessed to be able to walk now where I couldn't before. I can certainly talk. I've never stopped talking, but that's just me. I had to retrain my brain to make this hand eat again. The right hand side of me is still extremely heavy. I walk with a stick at the moment. But I'll gradually get there without the stick. And before I couldn't even walk. So it's coming on slowly. And I think I'm listening to my body, which you don't do. Like I said to you, you just take that time to just say that's not important, but this is. So this is important to me to get as well as I can so that I can get back to work. And luckily it's kind of working. I do a lot of singing with my son, which I love. And we go and do events at that. And that hasn't stopped me even when I was just literally sitting down singing and my boy would take over. But the prides and stuff we were doing, and the gay prides we were doing, they still wanted me, even though that this had happened to me. They were still saying, doesn't matter, Cheryl, you could please, just your appearance there is great. And then I would just chat like I'm chatting to you now, to the crowds, tell them a few little stories. But and by bit, I'm getting offered little scripts, and then I have to look into it and think. This year, my agent and I decided no pantos this year, no stage this year, because I've got to be able to get to the stage where I can walk across the stage at least. So I'm listening to myself, and I think going back to what you were saying, reflection is we do it a bit too late in life. And I think what we should do, and I've said to my son, he's 26, he's now started to not reflect, like he started to reflect, so I should say, now. So he's wrote a poetry book. He gets all the therapy that he needs. He writes about it. He's lucky enough to be able to be a brilliant writer and an actor. So he writes about it now. He is a good conversationalist, and we do a lot of stuff together. And it's like he's been brought up, he's an only child, he's been brought up with adults, so he kind of knows how to, and also with a mum who's been in the public eye. So he's had to learn things like who is his real friends at school, or who just wanted to come around to see Heather Trott's house. Do you know what I
mm,
mean? It was for him, he's had to go through a lot of journey himself. So he's had to process his life as he goes along. And I think that's what we should do. We shouldn't wait till the end and go, oh, you know what, everybody, what you need to do is this. I think as you're going along, it might be nice to say, um, what do I need? What do I need to learn? Oh, I've learned this. Shall I pass that information to somebody else that I've learned from it? Maybe they can get something from it. So it doesn't matter what age you are. And I think the two words that I say are the most important words is educate and communicate. Educate because we teach and we learn. Communicate because we talk and we listen. Once we have those four social skills to do, then we can become what we're called humankind. Just be kind humans once you know how to do it. That's all it is. It's not rocket science. That is exactly what it says on the tin. I'm not, we're not pretending to be a therapist. I'm not. I'm not trained. I'm not. I just know what life has chucked in my face, what I've learned from it, And sometimes not in a good way. Sometimes I've just gone about, trying to rectify it in such a wrong way. I've got myself into such a pickle again that I just, how many times can I learn by this mistake? Oh my gosh, I don't know. I don't know how many times I can learn by it. Then one day you just go ping and you go, That's happened 5 times now. Why are you letting that happen to yourself? That's absolutely stupid. Stop. Take a look at yourself and give yourself a little talking to, Cheryl, and find out what is important. Is that important? Is that person important who is soaking up your absolute energy and your, taking from you and not giving you anything back? Do you need that? Oh, no, you don't actually, because when you're not with that person or when you're not dealing with that person, whoever they are, you can move on. And when you move on, other things are there, and you go, I've forgotten about that person because they weren't giving me anything, and I was doing all the giving, and they were giving me nothing, nada, nothing.
Mm.
And you just go, that's not equal. That's not right. And sometimes it's going to be one person's got the advice and the other person hasn't, and then vice versa. And that's what friends and family and your loved ones do. But to be taken by somebody and just let them sap the energy out of you, or let them, drain you, so you're so tired and you can't think straight, and you just think, why are you letting somebody do that to you? It's your brain, it's your life, it's not theirs. They've got
Mm.
their own. Thank you very much. Uh, just deal with yourself, and hope that you can leave some sort of kindness along the way as you're going there. And that's the sort of legacy I want to leave. I want to leave with just not everybody loving me. I don't care if anybody doesn't like me. I don't care if people don't like me acting, don't like my voice, don't like me the fact I'm fat. It doesn't matter what they like or don't, they love or they don't love about me. What I want to know is that I want to be able to go to sleep at night and think, what have I done today? Have I been really nasty to someone? Cheryl, learn from that. That's not a good thing. Wake up tomorrow morning and just try to be a better self. And that's all it is.
That's that
That's all it
self-reflection that
is.
we're talking
Yeah.
about. And one thing that I really love that you said, because it ties quite nicely into my next question, is about filling your life with people who sort of educate and inspire and communicate well.
Yes.
And one thing that I always like to ask on this podcast in the early stages of the podcast, to try and see a little bit about, the way that people communicate, is I like to ask people's dream dinner guests. So if I had to
Oh,
ask you to put
okay.
together five people of your choosing who
Oh,
you would enjoy to sit over a nice piping hot roasted,
and that could be dead or alive. Is
dead
it
or
dead or
alive,
alive?
fixing a
Okay.
war
Wow.
reel.
Okay. Well, I think, oh, see, I want more than five because I'm greedy like that, a bit like my food. Um, I think I definitely love my mum and dad to be back. And that would be great. Although my mum and dad, um, in the book you'll see, my mum and my real dad, um, have never sat at a table with me together because I only found my real dad out when I was in EastEnders. So I never knew who my real dad was until I um, came to EastEnders, and there's a big story in the book about that. But that would be interesting to see my mum, and she had a lot of struggles in her life, but my mum with my real dad, and just to see them two around the table now would be hilarious because I never knew them as a couple. So I think that would be quite an interesting thing. There'd either be a massive row or they would just be laughing. And I think I hope it was the latter. So they're two. They're not famous, but they're famous. So I think definitely now this would be one that my mum and dad would go, why? We don't get it. We'll go into another room and carry on our conversation about bingo or whatever. I would love Stephen Fry. Stephen Fry, because he's ultra intelligent. He speaks the most sense that I've ever heard any politician ever talk about. Yeah, and so and if that's the case, then I'd have Miriam Margolis as well because the two of them together would be hilarious. I mean, my mum would get on with Miriam with all the swearing. That's four. Gosh, oh my God. So I've gone two dead, two alive. Um, oh gosh, there's so many people. I think I'd have to have George Michael.
Ah,
I'd have to have George Michael just because I would like to see him again. He became a friend in the end of the time. after I left EastEnders, and I think that I would love to sit round and have another conversation with him and ask some questions and see, and be able to talk to other people about what he's told me about things now, because I think what they didn't know about George was that he was a very kind and gentle man, and that he was a philanthropist, whatever. I can't say the word sometimes with a stroke. He gave money away. Basically, he helped people. He was very, and that only comes out when people pass away. They only, but there's so many people, Paul O'Grady, I'd have him there because he made me laugh so much. We just laughed and laughed and laughed. And, I mean, he'd just shoot them all down. So him and Miriam together would be a hoot, you know what I mean? So I'm having more than five, sorry. Just
That's all right. We'll count your parents as one then in that case, and we'll give you an extra.
okay. We'll have you there as well. We'll nick Paul O'Grady then as well.
On the topic of people like Paul O'Grady and George Michael,
Yeah,
obviously both of them have passed away, and both of those
yeah,
you had your own relationship with. I'd be keen to know how it is for you when somebody who's a friend of yours but is also in the public eye passes away. Do you know, how do you balance the grieving of that with all of the news articles that suddenly come out about them and all of the outpouring of love?
yeah.
Is it
I mean,
twice?
again, as I mentioned in my book, there was a horrendous time when George passed. I was doing panto. He passed, as we know, on Christmas Day,
Mm.
and on Christmas Day I had that off, and I knew a couple of hours before we all knew on the news. I'd been told, so that was just Christmas Day gone for me. You know what I mean? There was no Christmas Day doesn't mean anything to me anyway, because normally when I'm doing panto, it's the only day off, and normally I sit down, watch crap on the telly, don't even have a Christmas dinner. I just put all the things around me like twiglets, cheese balls, sweeties. I just do that and I munch all day until I'm sick. I mean, that's my Christmas day normally. But this particular day was horrendous. And then I had to go to do panto Boxing Day. And I asked me, Cheryl, what Heather would have thought of George Michael dying. And I just thought, you unintelligent people, don't you have anywhere else to be on Boxing Day? And like they knew uh, that George was a friend. So why the heck were they asking such pathetic questions? And why didn't they just give it a rest? Not even a day after he was gone, that they were there wanting to have their little pieces of silver. And I just thought, I've got to go in there, I've got to entertain people. I just thought, how, we're so nasty sometimes, we're so cruel, and just not even get a day off. It's just literally don't get a day off because they think that that's what everybody wants to know. They can sit in their own houses and write out whatever they want to, but don't come and ask people questions like that when they're clearly got jobs to do, and they're not even processed it themselves. Do you know what I mean? So that's an example of one. When Paul passed away, I was completely in bits again. I was lucky enough to be asked to come to his funeral, and there was only literally a small church full of us. And he laid on this wonderful situation. Paul had obviously sorted it out before him and his husband had already sorted out. They'd obviously talked about passing away, and Paul Paul lived near a major safari park that he used to go to a lot and put a lot of money into and go. And literally, they closed the safari park down for us for the day. Um, so we did the church. We went to this safari park for the sort of wake thing, and they closed it down. And we were we were taken around the park, those that wanted to go, and feed the animals and do whatever we wanted, just kind of in the name of Paul, in memoriam of having a great day. And that was like magic. It was magic. It was myself and Betty Legs Diamond, who's quite a famous drag queen up well, she's famous in the UK, but she's an amazing drag queen that Paul obviously knew, and she has been on the Royal Variety shows in the old days, and she's still working, she's still doing shows, still doing panto, and me and her, we just literally not. She wasn't in drag. She was obviously, Simon, who he was, and we went round feeding giraffes and hippos and It was just an incredible day, and all we did was laugh and thought, and it was muddy and a bit rainy sometimes, and we thought, oh, here we are in our wellies. I'm doing a Dawn French here. I'm going to fall in a big puddle in a minute, you know. And I've just thought all the way through it was just Paul making us laugh. And so, yeah, I have a lot of different reflections when well-known people pass away. They're foremostly their friends, they're people again, like everybody should know, and but then I'm glad that some of them are loved so much as I loved them, and I think that, you know, may their legacy and may they live on, and may we keep talking about them and playing their music, or, you know, playing their shows, or whatever it is that they were, you know, did so brilliantly. Yeah, so yeah.
Well, there's a lesson for you all. If you're grieving, then go and feed some giraffes. It's
Yeah,
a
that's
perfect way to get over and
pretty
move
cool.
forward.
Pretty
Yeah.
cool.
I want to take it back a little bit to the start as well now, so that we can hear a little bit about a young Cheryl who might I say was very very cute from those photos in the book. A
Oh my
very
gosh, I look like a boy. What are you talking about? I had the classic bowl cut, and look like a little boy. But I mean, yeah, always been tubby, always been chubby. I mean, always like a little weeble, to be quite honest with you. It never, you know, it hasn't changed with me. You know, my body shape's always been like a candy floss on a stick. You know, I've got the somebody described me once as a toffee apple. And when I was at EastEnders, they kept calling me Cabbage Patch Doll, and I thought that's exactly what I was. I was a little Cabbage Patch Doll, and let's bring back a Cabbage Patch Doll and have a head one with a headband. I'd quite like that. You know, that's one if anyone wants to make one. Yeah, so yeah, go on. What you were saying? I wasn't cute. I wasn't rash.
I was keen to hear about your childhood because I think you describe it as in the book as, you know, partly really great and then partly less than idyllic, I think was the word you used. So that there was obviously
Yeah,
certain, it was obviously a mixed bag of a childhood. Can you a
yeah.
little bit into that?
Well, I think in a I mean, I had fun growing up. I
Mm,
mean, there was, you know, lots of things. I was the oldest child to two half brother and sister. So I was the eldest of that, and I found myself babysitting a lot because my mum used to go out a lot with my adopted dad. You know, they would go out to bingo. They would just have their little bit of relief because they were working a lot and doing stuff. So I would be the babysitter, which I became quite resentful for because I was 10 years older than my half sister and 8 years older than my half brother. And, you know, when you're a certain age, you don't want to just keep looking after kids. You want to go out and do stuff yourself. So
mm,
became quite resentful for that. But also, uh, just doing normal things, but being bullied. I was bullied at school because of the size of me. So I found that laughter and being funny just kind of took the edge off of that. And then so I had my own little gang then because people thought it was, you know, if they were kind of felt like they were slightly misfitty, they would come and join my gang of fools as we were. And it wasn't a gang, it was just a load of people just identifying that not everybody's kind, you know, not everybody's nice. And that we didn't really look like those people, you know, they were the ones that I describe it in my book. There was a girl in particular who had, you know, in the rain, I never had an umbrella. My socks were always filthy of mud. You know, that if I had a hole in my shoe, that it would be horribly muddy. I'd be looking like a drowned rat, and I'd be, you know, going into class steaming as it was hot in there, and I'd be like the rain would come off of me. Whereas there's one particular girl who always had an umbrella, her hair was perfect, white socks, you know, absolutely just and pretty. And I remember thinking then there are those with and there are those without. And it just made me realize at a young age that the ones with were surrounded by others with or wanting to be with. And those that were without, like myself, we found other ways to be with. A lot of those people were scientists. A lot of those liked maths and liked science, you know, the geeky type. Whereas I'm so crap at maths and science, I'm really bad. But I remember, you know, just going, well, they're all right. They just know a lot more numbers than I do, you know. Um,
mm.
a lot of those people were mixed race or at that time, or they were Indian. So my multicultural thing was started very, very young. And my best friend was a Jamaican family. You know, I understood why they go, you know, that why she and her family would maybe go to sleep with scarves in their hair. And I used to think, Why is that then? And it's because they oil their hair at night, and and they don't want to get it on their pillow. I understood that at a really early age, and it was very, very, I understood that, you have to. It's very important to cream areas of yourself, to moisturize yourself, because dry skin. But you know, uh, I wouldn't have that. I wouldn't have had that knowledge or that education about another person's way of life, or their hair type, or their skin color, what tones, what color tights to wear. I
Mm.
mean, we have this thing now. We call everything flesh colored. Whose flesh is it? It's our flesh.
Yeah.
It's not a black person's flesh. If like you put a flesh color pair of tights on a black person, flesh means my color skin. It wouldn't
Yeah.
go with their color skin. So, I was literally educated without knowing I was being educated, if that makes sense. Because I just
Yeah.
rolled with the culture. I rolled with it. And I didn't think, oh, that's different. I just thought, oh, that's another added thing to my life. I didn't know that. And I'd go home to my mum and say, oh, when you're sending me down to get yourself some pock socks, what colour do you want? And my mum would go, well, what colour do you mean? I go, well, she'd go, flesh colour. They go, yeah, your flesh colour. And she'd go, well, what do you mean? I went, well, you don't want black tights, pop socks, do you? Or unless you want black pop socks to go with your black shoes. I said, it's not your. And she would go, how do you know about that? And she would ask me that at the age of like 8. I was 8 and 9 coming out with these things. So these are things that I was so lucky to have learned. Um, all because thank you to the bullies who would just like put me in this kind of group and not make me, doubt who I was or doubt my confidence.
Well, that
So
that sort of followed you throughout your life, hasn't it? You're such a
yeah,
big supporter of the
I guess so.
LGBT
Yeah,
community, and obviously your husband is of a different race to you, so
yeah,
that's obviously something that was a great education at such a young age, which I imagine not everyone would have had, which is really
yeah.
cool.
Yeah, I think so. And there's, I mean, there's other stuff that's a bit dark as well in the book that I think my childhood was taken away from me um, at a too early age from an incident that happened. Um, and I mean, I was sexually assaulted, and people will go when they read the story. It was kind of like it, some people with this particular policeman actually thought it was nothing. He literally had told my parents, well, she's got a lot to learn, hasn't she, really, if that's all that happened to her. And it
Wow.
wasn't, I wasn't raped, but I wasn't, nothing, but it was enough to take my childhood away from me and realize that my body was not meant to just have fun and run around with. I grew up too soon because this person, this man, made something sexual of a child's body, and I just remember thinking that it's not fun anymore to run around and be that. It's not. I have to be careful now, and even now, if I ride my bike and the incident happened on a bike. If I ride my bike and I hear um, somebody behind me walking and they're going to walk past me, I stop the bike because it's this particular person pushed me off a bike and pushed me in some bushes that were there. Now now I'm 60 now. That happened when that happened uh, a long time ago. And I remember just even now just kind of going, that has affected me from a child to now. And I know that it was like something so in this day and age when everything is so violent and so horrible and so nasty, and you get, there's knives and there's guns and there's all sorts of things involved, and we're terrible, terrible, terrible sexual things happen to children, terrible, and I go, it doesn't matter what that thing is, it's made me, it's affected me for the whole of my 60 years now. Do you know what I mean? Or the years, 50 years of it. And you kind of go, that's sad that I have to stop riding my bike if somebody is like, um, coming up by me or near me, I just have to sort of stop it because I think they're going to push me into a bush. Ridiculous, ridiculous. You know, the actual things it tells me, the trauma tells me it's not going to happen. There's not a bush there, Cheryl. The
Mm.
bike is faster than the person. You know, there's now we can make it. We can actually, you know, put it in perspective, but it still leaves that horrendous moment that 1 minute you were a child enjoying a street party. It was actually a Queen's street party, and the next minute, so you're having fun with your friends, you're having music, there's laughter, there's trestle tables, there's people having fun, and then in the next half an hour or so, changes like that, and you just go, wow, that's incredible, you know. And that's not making it dark. That's making you realize that people's actions, for anybody in life, but specifically for children, you know, they will live with those memories. They will live. It will be ingrained because that's the time when you're the biggest sponge to soak everything up. So
Mm.
you take that, you're soaking up that sponge and all the good stuff, just pump it with good stuff because that will override bad stuff if you can just keep pumping it with cuddles, love, and all of those things and happy memories and going, you know, just take time with your child so that they have that memory, not you just constantly, I don't know, just sitting down the pub and then not thinking where are they, or just plonking me in front of a telly and I haven't seen them for 5 hours. You know,
Mm.
spend some time, just a little bit of time, and make that time count. That's all it is, you know, because it's an influential part of your life. It's what we learn. It's how we learn, you know. So
Well, I think that's such a positive way of looking at it, and like you
yeah,
said, you know, it is a dark story, but ultimately it's a story of light because it's something
mm,
awful that's happened to you that you've lived with and carried on and continued to
yeah,
survive, and I think that's incredible. And obviously, look at where you went in your life following that. You
yeah,
know, you stood up and said, "No, I'm not going to let this define me,"
yeah,
which is just incredible.
yeah,
And to move on from that a little bit to something else that was quite dark, I thought one of the most remarkable things that I read in the book was the prologue, which is where you sat on. Well, I'll let you tell the story of the bench where you
yeah,
sat, had a bit
yeah.
of a moment of clarity.
Okay, so this is real kind of what goes round. It's a complete, you know, life is a circle. But when Alex was a baby, he was quite difficult. He had ADHD. He was diagnosed eventually with ADHD and autism, on the autistic scale, I should say. He was always a baby that cried. He was, or, you know, he just had lots of problems. And me as a mother, I didn't know what to do because I didn't, you know, I was married at the time, and his dad was like, oh, he's just being a boy. He's just, you know, he's just ignoring the fact that there was something wrong with Al, and that he needed to be diagnosed to you know to get the help. Anyway, Alex's dad was an okay guy. I mean, you know, he was no he was a good dad when Alex was a baby, but he wasn't a great partner. And I found myself later on uh questioning things that he was doing over a long period of time, and eventually the sort of detective work detected that he'd been having affairs. And I was kind of like, I was completely stabbed in the heart at that point. I just not long had Alex, so I just thought, well, surely we should be this happy family. Time went on. He eventually, I decided that this wasn't a good place to be with him, and I ended up with Alex moving away from. We lived in Manchester at the time, moving away from Manchester, coming back to London, and then living. I found Alex and we were living in a refuge, because it was the only time that somebody was explaining to me what the sort of mental abuse was as bad as the physical abuse. And I used to take Alex out, sorry, when we were at the refuge for all his kind of crying and screaming, loved this clock tower. And it had a Hansel and Gretel theme on it. And every half an hour, they would come out, the characters would come out and go around the clock and do things. And he would giggle. And it was the only time that I really saw him loved this thing. It was almost like having a special toy or a special game. So I would take him there for a bit of respite for myself out of this refuge where there was obviously a lot of other people there, in difficult situations. So my kind of solace again my own time, taking him away from it all. He used to sit and watch this clock tower and it was like it was literally the respite we both needed, really. And then years and years later, I was touring with a musical, and it was touring around all these different theatres. And this clock tower happens to be right next to the Orchard Theatre, which is where I was appearing once, and oh, I appeared there a few times actually. But I the seat was still there, the clock tower was still there, the figurines don't come out anymore. But I remember when I was doing the play with my name, you know, heading it, and I was thinking, how far have I come now from the house that's not far from here, when Alex was the little one, to now being in that theatre as the name, you know, and still sitting here reflecting, looking at that clock tower, going, we I did all right in the end, you know, we got through this. And again, it's another thing in the book to say to people, go and find the help if you need help in certain situations, whatever it is, whether you need food banks, whether you need refuges, whether you need cancer treatment places, you know, whether you need stroke associations, whatever it is, you know, suicide places, yeah, whatever it is that you need services for, they're there for a reason. They're not there just to go, oh, hello, we're here, we're getting lots of money, we don't give you help. That's
Mhm.
absolutely rubbish. They're there to help you. So take that help. If you need it, don't take the mickey out of it. But you know, literally, you need it, it's there, it's your lifeline. So use it. And that's what I'm kind of trying to say in the book. Use the lifelines, don't be ashamed of it. Don't It doesn't matter who you are, do not be ashamed of trying to feed your family, or trying to, you know, make yourself better, trying to get away from a situation, trying to, you know, do not beat yourself up over these things. Talk to people, and then ask them for the help if you can't do it for yourself. And that's kind of what I was trying to get in the book, you know, that you can get out of it. Look at the fact that I'm sat here now looking at this clock tower. That's a bit run down now. It's a bit old. It's a bit not working. You know, it did what it did, and it did what it needed to do at the time for me. And now I'm here, and now I'm entertaining, you know, and doing my job, and living a great life now. And it's different. It's changed. You know, it helped change me. So yeah, that's the kind of moral. I mean, morals are weird words. I always think morals are should. It's not a moral. It's just a story. You know, we've all got them. We all need to
It's
tell
yeah,
them.
it's a story that fits very well, and it's not your standard sort of celebrity book just saying how great I am, is it? It's a book that inspires and kind of encourages people to come forward and you know, listen to the
Yeah. Well,
hope.
it's not saying how great I am, because
No.
I'm not great. I mean, sometimes I'm great. Sometimes I'm brilliant. Sometimes I'm really rubbish. And sometimes, you know, I'm not here. Sometimes I'm not there. Sometimes I'm everywhere. So I think, you know, it's a book that is honest. It's a book that wears its heart on its sleeve. And that's all I can be. That's all anybody who ever knows me knows. I can't tell fibs. You know, I would be terrible on the traitors, but I'd love to do it. I'd love to do it just for the fact that I'd just be laughing all the time, because I wouldn't know. I'm a bit like that in church. You know, I giggle because I don't know how to react. So I think if I was in traitors, I'd just be laughing, and they wouldn't know whether I'm lying or not, because I just literally would just be laughing, because I just think I'm a traitor. Oh no, no, I'm not a traitor. What am I? I don't know who I am. Let's just go with this. I'll just follow you to see what you come up with. I'll say what you say, but then I'll just be lying. You know,
The
I'll be
world's
not
biggest
lying.
double bluff.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't know what I was doing. It's the same with anything, to be quite honest. You know,
Well, let's
I'd
let's
wing
talk
it.
a bit about the times when you were brilliant. You know, we've spoken a little bit about EastEnders, but a lot of our guests will probably know you from loads of other things as well. You know, like Little Britain or the IT
Yeah,
Crowd or even Doctor Who. You know, these are all huge British shows. And I'm keen to ask you, because a lot of your roles are comedic in tone, even EastEnders. I think you were won funniest performance of the year award.
Yeah, that was that was funny. No, it's a delight to get something to be acknowledged for something. But there are other things I can do as well. We're called actors for a reason.
Yeah.
We're chameleons. We I can't wait to get, I want to do a Pauline Quirk where she was so funny in Birds of a Feather, but then turned in Broadchurch and became this really evil person. And I would love casting directors or producers to go, we know Cheryl can play Heather Trott kind of
Mm.
characters. Wouldn't it be great if if Cheryl Fergison removed herself from Heather Trott and she played, I don't know, something really nasty, something evil or something that nobody would expect me to do, you know, um, whether it's in a soap and being, somebody not so nice, or whether it's in a drama or a series and people think I'm going to be funny, and maybe I put on that funny persona, but actually there's a twist underneath it or something like that. You know, that there are many minds of women that I would like to get into, and there's been a lot of those documentaries, things like Myra Hindley and stuff like that. But um, minds of some of the women that have been either swayed by men or just got evil in them, and I want to know why they've turned evil, because we're not born evil. Something's happened to them to be like that, and it would be amazing to be able to even if it was a fictional character, it wasn't based around a real person, but it would be great to look in the mind of somebody who does horrendous things, and to find out why that happens. Because I think if you kind of have knowledge of why people do something, it's not to say that what they do is right, because it's not. It's hideous. It's horrendous. But it's not excusable. It's not an excuse, but you can see that people have been pushed in a way somewhere along their line that it's been so bad for them. They haven't had the people around them to get them out of it, to make them a nicer person, because of their childhood or their backgrounds or their partners or their kids or whatever it is. I'm looking forward to, in my 60s, playing somebody um a little bit meatier, a little bit, sort of with a bit of guts about, or a really good detective, like a really sort of down down to earth, proper council estate. She does her own detective
Mm.
work with the guys on the street there, and she works it out before the coppers do. You know what I mean? That would be quite cool. She's got a bit,
I'd certainly watch that.
yeah,
Yeah, I'd give that a watch. Yeah, and
yeah,
there's so many, funny actors who have gone on to win awards in, very serious roles. Robin Williams, Adam Sandler. They're all excellent
yeah,
actors outside of their
yeah.
comedy. It's escaping that kind of pigeonhole that I guess is the hard part.
I think it is. And when you've done it for so long, like I have, I think that's another thing, isn't it, in life, that you'd like to just be able to leave that legacy of a twist,
Mm.
where people go, oh, she was funny in that. Did you know she started her life in that comedy? Did you know she did that? Oh, she was in Hard Sell with Catherine Tate, Netflix. That was funny. Oh, that's hilarious. She did Mandy recently. That was funny, hilarious. But yeah, then suddenly, did you see what she did when she did Sawn Off Shotgun, or whatever it's called? I don't know what it's called. Did you see her in that? Oh my God, and that's the talking point, isn't it? That's the bit where you go, like Robin Williams, or Good Will Hunting, or you think they're peer neckers, Nelly. They've got it. They
Mm.
are, and that's what you see with Steve McFadden. Let's go back to him. When he does Panto, which I'm really looking forward to seeing him this Christmas, he's a funny baddie. He's a funny baddie. He's a baddie because he's a baddie in the Enders, or so called. But he's a funny. He doesn't take himself seriously, and they write comedy for him, and he can do it. And that's when people go, wasn't Steve McFadden a laugh? And you won't put those two words together. You don't go Steve McFadden a laugh. You know what I mean? Phil
Yeah.
Mitchell funny. Do you know what I mean? You don't put those two things together, but actually, that's what's a good actor is. You know what I mean? That's what a good actress, actor, whatever you want to call ourselves these
Yeah,
days.
someone who blends
Yeah,
those worlds together. And I suppose one role that you
yeah,
had that was less comedic about 20 years ago now was in the first series of the revival of Doctor Who. And I'm keen.
yeah.
I know it was a two-parter that you were
Well, I
involved.
thought it was a two-parter. You know what? I never got any kudos being in EastEnders for all those years, but I was in. I say two episodes Doctor Who. It must be a two-parter. I think it was two-part. I had more kudos being in Doctor Who, and I wish they paid me, not in money. I wish they paid me in merchandise because I spent triple the amount of money on merchandise for my son. He had about five sonic screwdrivers, three canine dogs. He had so many Daleks. I don't know what. I mean, just Cybermen hats. I mean, I just remember just coming. He's going, oh, all the figurines. I want Sarah Jane. I want Sarah Jane. Okay, okay, we're going to go. So his bedroom was, I remember there being a whole thing where Bradley in EastEnders, when Bradley was alive, went to he was a Doctor Who in his character loved Doctor Who, and in EastEnders they mocked up a massive Doctor Who convention, and they'd made all these things, and I remember taking home for Alex a life-size massive cardboard cutout Dalek to put on his bedroom wall, and it was the best thing I could have ever got him, and that got lost in transit and got broken, and he stopped when we moved, and it got literally bent and broke. But that stayed on his wall for ages, and it was amazing. So yeah, I mean, it was the Doctor dances and the Empty Child. That's what I remember the names of them being. So I think there were two parters. It was the one with the gas masks, where some kid goes, "Are you my mummy?" So I didn't play an alien. Some might disagree, but I didn't play an alien in it. I played a human being, Mrs. Lloyd. But again, Russell T Davies and all that, the writing then had innuendos that you kids would have missed that adults kind of got. I think it was less subtle as the time's gone on with the Doctor Who's, but in those days, there was hints of certain things under the in the writing, but it was iconic. Chris Eccleston was my doctor. Unfortunately, he didn't stay to be a longer doctor, but we had the fantastic other doctors afterwards. With the likes of Matt Smith, David Tennant. Um, you know, I want to say Louis Capaldi, but it wasn't Louis.
Peter.
Louis Capaldi. Peter Capaldi. I know. That
Lewis would make
singer,
a
Louis
great doctor,
Capaldi,
though.
was Doctor
He'd make a
Who.
great doctor.
Do you know what? He would be a fantastic doctor, and I would want him to sing. I would want it to be a musical Doctor Who. That's what I would want it to be, with songs in it, where he gets sometimes a little bit melancholy on his own, and he sings to himself. He sits with his guitar and his long scarf, and he plays songs. But anyway, he would make a great doctor. Actually, I'll give you that one. You can pitch that one. I'll let you have that one.
Yeah, I think they'd triple the viewing figures overnight, to be honest.
I think he should. Yeah, I mean, he should be a doctor, and then he should carry on, and he should do the tour, the Doctor Who Capaldi tour.
He just
And I
sings the
think,
theme tune.
yeah, and I think he has sings his songs and he does his things, and sometimes the odd character comes in, and maybe myself and Anita Dobson, EastEnder ones, can come
Great
in,
combo. Yeah.
and we can like sing backing because we can both sing. So we're singing backing singers, me in a gas mask, her as the lady that is that is of late. I don't know quite what she is actually. She's quite scary in some ways. She's there and then she's sort of like there. You know what I mean? So,
Serious.
but
Yeah.
yeah, I love Anita. I love her so much. So yeah, that's a good idea. Louis Capaldi for Doctor.
I'll give you 50% when it goes forward.
Cheers. I like that idea. Thank you. Every
And
penny counts.
every penny does indeed count. And I wanted to because we mentioned on the viewing figures there. I've got some statistics for you about your time on EastEnders.
Okay.
I
However,
read that nearly
you're a bit of
nine.
a geek because you can be in my gang if you are.
No, if it means I get to be in your gang, I'll be a geek. Absolutely, I'll be a geek. Because I read that nearly 9 million people watched the episode, your final episode.
Are you joking?
Yeah, that's quite
Is that
remarkable.
truth?
No,
I
no,
might
no.
have to I might have to nick that at some point. I might have to show the bit where he's hit me over the head and go, 9 million of you watch this.
And the other
Quote
statistic,
conversational man.
conversational copyright. The other statistic I had. Do you know how many episodes you were in of EastEnders in total?
God, no. No.
It's
Go
quite
on.
impressive.
Do
It's
you know?
386.
Is
So
it
that's
really?
that's a lot of episodes.
Only when I was supposed to be in it for 4 episodes, I think I was supposed, possibly 5 at the beginning as Heather Trott. I was only supposed to be in 4 to 5 episodes. I think that's what it was. 4 episodes.
Wow.
386 ones later, 9
So,
million people watching,
yeah.
bopped over the head with a picture frame, flat as a pancake on the floor, like a sack of spuds.
You
Dead.
must be proud of that legacy. That's a
Yeah, and I also voted the best corpse,
really.
both in EastEnders and in Casualty, because I'm quite a good shallow breather, so they can actually film on a corpse for a long time. So you don't see my chest going up and down. So I've been voted the best corpse. They said, I remember Casualty years ago. They said, "Gosh, you seem to be able to sort of shallow breathe really easily." I said, "Oh yeah, I used to sort of like be able to hold a lot of air in my diaphragm, so I was like minutes, a bit like a diver under sea. You know what I mean, under the water." So they could film on me for a long time without me moving. And the same, so I took that to me death in EastEnders, and when they were doing a lot of on the floor looking at my body, I just said to them, "By the way, I've been voted best corpse in Casualty, so now I'd like this legacy to carry on, please. I'm going to give you the best corpse in EastEnders," and they were all laughing, but they all said, "Actually, Cheryl, it's pretty cool. It's pretty good to you did well to doing that." So
That's the thing.
yeah, so
You joke about all these things, but then you deliver these award-winning performances as a corpse.
You know what I mean? I mean, listen, if I'm going to go out dying, I might as well do it with an award, mightn't I? It's a serious issue, really. Actually, that's maybe one that they could have at the NTAs. Best corpse,
Mm.
best played corpse. That would be quite cool.
You'd be like Anton
And you
Deck
get, and you
25
get,
years in
and
a
you
row.
get, and you get, yeah, and you get shown all the ones that were not very good, where they just see that you see their chest go, or they move, they twitch, or they blink.
They just blink off,
We saw all the ones where they,
tongue out.
yeah, absolutely, and they can't keep their tongue out. So the next, continuity goes wrong, and the next bit their tongue's in. You know what I mean? So
Out one side through cuts.
absolutely. Gosh,
Were you sad when you found out that your character was being killed off?
yeah, but I was absolutely I was pleased that I'd had as long as I did, because like I said, I was only supposed to be in it for such a short time. That I was every day was a blessing going into that building, to be quite honest. So I can't bear actors that moan about going to work. I mean, I know we all moan in the workplace. I mean, I might have moaned like there weren't the right biscuits in the canteen. That's what I might have moaned about. But I certainly never moaned about going into those Elstree gates every day with my super pass. I was so proud to show my security my pass, and even though I didn't need to show them my pass, they knew who I was. I would still go, "Got my pass," because I was so pleased that of going in that building. It was just like any actor's dream to do this kind of stuff, and I was doing it. So I don't understand anybody who would moan about, "Oh, that scene's a bit rubbish," or, "Oh no, oh gosh, I've got to drink pints again in the Vic. Oh, I've got to," and you go, "I quite happily drink meths if I had to." Do you know what I mean? Just to kind of be able to be in this privileged position, to
Mm.
be asked to go to special red carpet awards, amazing places, get given stuff. which is really weird because when you've got money, people tend to give you things, which is weird because you need it when they don't. You haven't got any money, so I've never really understood that. They always go, "Oh, have this dress to wear at this award, have this, have that, have the others, show it all off because la la la. Here we are. Have a, have a big bouquet of flowers. Have." And you go, "Uh, when are you gonna send those to me when I'm out of the program? Are you gonna let me have?" Yeah, I think just do what you can in life. Be kind, be nice.
On the topic of being kind, is that back when you were on EastEnders, you were, or your character was a bit of a recurring character on Harry Hill's TV Burp. That was
I've just seen him literally this week. What day are we on? Tuesday. I saw him on Saturday.
as
Has Hazza. I call him Hazza.
oh yeah. So you,
He
you
calls
that's
me
what I
Shazza.
wanted to ask. Is it a good relationship?
Well, the thing is, whenever he's playing in my hometown, I go to see him. And so he was playing in my hometown, and I said, "Hazard, I'm coming to see you," because they know me at the theatre, and they said, "Oh yeah, your mate's in." I went, "Yeah, I know, I'm going to come. Can I come and see him?" So I always go beforehand, because I he lives in London, I don't live in London anymore. So he kind of he's always there, chat. He gives us a cuddle. His tour manager, the same. We sometimes he's got to go straight on to some other place afterwards, so we don't meet up. And sometimes we have a drink, but he's just he's silly, he's funny. I mean, I watched 2.5 hours of something I couldn't tell you what I watched because it was so silly. Just him, it's just Hazard, and you just go, you either like that stupid sense of humor or it's not your cup of tea. But I just seriously just belly laughed. Not because I know him, but because he was coming up with some absolutely stupid things. He's just silly. Kids were there as well as people my age, so he got the spectrum of people. So yeah, Hazard is a very funny man. I think he'll be on tour again next year. He's just finished now, so
So there's no bad
rest now.
stuff
He's getting
left
old.
there.
No, I was just saying that I think the thing is, if anybody's doing an impression of you, whatever it is, it's a compliment, isn't it? Because you're being spoken about. I think that's the way to look at it. And if you're truly offended by something, then you can't take yourself seriously all the time. You got to take the rough with the smooth. But like I said, any publicity is good publicity as long as you know how to react to it. And yeah, I was lucky enough to get the end of when Harry did his last TV burps. I was lucky enough to be on the show. He asked me to come and be on the show as the real but I was Cheryl Fergison, not Heather Trott, and he had the man playing Heather there as well, and that was quite funny. But then a few days later, I got a phone call, and from my agent saying Harry wants to give you a call. Is it okay if he calls you? And so I said, yeah, of course it is. So he gave me a ring, and he was doing. I was living in London at the time, and he was giving me a call to ask me if I could join him because he knew I could sing. If I could join him and his band in a club in Putney, um, to sort of go in between his acts. So I got another job working with him doing something else. It was quite incredible, really. So
Again, it just shows how that lovely kind of
very
positive Cheryl
blessed.
Ferguson attitude is leading to opportunities and getting you where you need to be. And I'm sure if you didn't have that lovely kind of positive attitude, you wouldn't have gone from 4 episodes on EastEnders to 386. It's all kind of
I think
on the way, eh?
386. I must remember
386 and 9 million.
that number 9 million. Yeah, 386, 9 million and one picture frame. I think that's what actually that could be my next book, isn't it? 386 episodes, 9 million people, one picture frame. Quite a good.
Quite nice.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, the problem is once you've met me, you're stuck with me. So unfortunately, you might have to have me back on again.
Well, I will absolutely agree to that. But before I let you go on this one, I want to ask some quick fire questions to wrap it
Yeah.
up. So
Okay.
I ask these
Quick.
to all
I'll
of
do
our
the
guests.
quick. I'll do it
Well,
quick.
it's up to you. You can be as long as you like. But the first quick fire question I have for you, in every good movie of somebody's life, there's always a turning point. Something that turns the plot and changes everything. I'd love to know what you think the turning point of your life was that changed everything for you.
Oh gosh. Well, it's got to be EastEnders, I suppose. Yeah, EastEnders, I would say. I don't know. I've had so many turns. I'm like a roller coaster ride. I don't know where you twists and turns have always happened. I would say major ones are like that, in my career. Yeah. I
And
guess EastEnders.
EastEnders. And the next question might have the same answer, but what singular piece of work would you say you're most proud of over your career?
Oh, piece of work. I don't say it. Well, this is a weird loose thing of saying what my biggest achievement is in life. Okay, so my biggest achievement is my son.
Mm.
It's not a piece of work. I mean, he can be a piece of work. Sometimes he's like, but I would say my son is my biggest work of art.
I thought you might
That's,
say that. There's a lot of love stemming from the pages of your book towards your son, so I
yeah.
sort of thought you might say that. What advice would you give to somebody who wants to start a career like yours? You know, be an actress and singer and author and all of the wonderful things that you are.
I would say to them, don't ever let anybody. I say this to young people now. Don't ever let anybody tell you can't do something because you can, and don't be a sheep. Be a shepherd because sheep just go around in groups going bang and they just follow each other around. A shepherd can earn money and it's kind of normally quite a good head of gathering a group together. So I think I would say be a shepherd, not a sheep, and don't let people tell you you can't do anything because you can.
That's great advice. That's great advice. And on this podcast, we kind of champion communication skills. It's sort of the point of the podcast, and being a strong communicator. And I found that today I found you to be such a wonderful communicator. And I wonder, how important would you say communication skills have been in your life?
The utmost, the absolute utmost. It's the, I would say, the top of the agenda. Like I said before, if you don't talk and you don't listen and you don't educate yourself and you don't, if you don't learn and you don't teach, then basically my background is community. I come from community. I trained as a community theatre artist. I trained as theatre and education. So for me, community is communication. That's what it's about. So you put those two together, begins with the same word, commu. So I think that yeah, it's top. It's top. It always has been for me. It always has been. So keep talking. They keep saying keep dancing on Strictly. I would say keep talking. It's the way you got to keep going. Really.
You're great at that, I've got to say. For the next
Too
few
much, I
questions,
think sometimes. I
well,
think sometimes I need to dish out the paracetamol because I get an headache by the end of it. But there we go. It's fine.
But funnily enough, what I do now with all my guests is I'm going to take those communication skills away. And for the next few questions, I'd like you to answer with just one word if you can. And it's
Oh,
a bit of a
sugar.
challenge that we
Okay.
end up with. So the first one word answer I'd like you to give me, what motivates you in just one word?
Passion.
What scares you?
Unknown.
What has been the best thing about your career?
Challenges.
And what's been the worst thing about your career?
Challenges.
Mhm. What's your biggest strength?
Communication.
What's your biggest weakness?
Food.
Theatre or screen acting?
Either.
Good answer. And the final one that I'd like you to answer in one word, and I understand you may need two for this, but let's see. Who's your hero?
Sorry, something came into my head and it wasn't at all what I I'll tell you what came into my head, but I'll answer the question properly. Who is my hero? Oh,
You can have two words for this one because I
my
recognise you might.
son. Son. My
Great.
son.
And what came into your head out of interest?
Meatloaf. I don't know why. I used to love meat. I managed to speak to him once on a show that I was doing, and I was playing Meatloaf. I was actually playing him, singing as him on a ITV show, and they got a call to him and he congratulated me for playing Meatloaf, for playing him that night on the television. It was an ITV program that was live on Saturday nights, and yeah, they at one point I had to be Meatloaf, and it was my best ever thing I've ever done in terms of singing a male male. But yeah, I don't know why you said when you said my hero, I just thought Meatloaf because it's like the best thing I've ever sung.
Right. Final two questions. You can answer these with more than one word. You did very, very well at that one word section, I've got to say. What does the future hold for you? What's next? What's coming up?
Um, the future is going to be hopefully more people reading the book, getting better quickly and quicker, be more stage and much more screen stuff next year. And also somebody planted a seed, I think I put it on my social recently, that they would like to see my book. They've read my book, they'd like to see it as a film or a 4-part drama series on the telly. And I thought, wow, that would be something. Because if you read the book, then you will know that wouldn't know where they would start with that, to be honest. But that would be like uh the icing, I think, totally on the top of the cake. That would be
Would you play
the
yourself, or would you get somebody to play you?
no, no. I've already said it on the thing. Everybody says to me, who would you get to play? In fact, the woman said, "Who would you get to play you, Cheryl? Who would you?" Yeah, blah, blah, blah. And I said, and I thought about this, and I thought, what I would like to do, and this is absolute truth, if it ever happened. So I'm kind of pitching it out there as best I can, is that I would like to possibly play my mum. That's the only part that I would like to play if I was allowed to do that. And every single person in that program or that film, every single one would be an unknown, and it would be somebody who has just come out of drama college, just come out of some sort of drama training and ready to go into our industry. And they would, if somebody playing me would need to be able to uh, age up and age to maybe teenagers, so teenager from up to like EastEnders time. But every single one of those people in there would be an unknown, and I would like to do a program before the program, going round and auditioning those people and asking why they would want, just finding out, so that we start putting in the new talent that's coming out, start passing the baton. I don't want to keep seeing the same familiar faces on the television. I'm sure everybody else is sick of seeing the same person playing the same bit, blah blah blah. There are other actors coming who can do it. There are other actors coming up in the ranks. And I just think that let's give them a go. So I think I would like to pioneer the whole piece to be with absolutely unknowns, that hopefully a few of them you might see in more and more things later on. That's what I would want to do. That was, yeah,
That's quite a
that's
Cheryl
the
answer, I
aim.
think. It's very open and progressive and community based, and keen to move everyone
Yeah,
forward. I think that's really lovely. I think it says a lot about you.
yeah,
The
I think
question
so.
that I always ask, which I think leaves our audience with a little something to think about. You spoke earlier about what advice you'd give to young people. I'd love to know, before we let you go, what is one piece of advice that you wish that you'd been given when you were younger?
Um, no, I think I wish that somebody would have told me that there are always two sides to a story, and that not your own is necessarily right. So I think it's just a little bit about take a step back, breathe, and assess the situation before you go in all guns blazing with something. And I think that that would be a really good skill to have learned earlier, because I think when I was trying to deal with sometimes with bullies or something, I would either just laugh it off and not be brave enough to confront it, or I would go in. At one point, we got to a stage where I couldn't carry on with this anymore. I'd literally fight. And I think that that is a wrong way to do it as well, because you just need to find to get somebody to teach you how to deal with those people, to realize what is going on, that the problem is not with you, but it's with them. And I think that that's what we all sort of need to have been taught. And if I'm honest with you, in schools, and this is just a factual thing, I wish to goodness they taught us about tax. I wish they taught us how to do tax, because we don't. I've never had to show anything to do with anything else in my life other than a tax form, and I can't do that. I have to give that to an accountant because I don't understand numbers. I'm not Carol Vorderman or Rachel Riley. I can't do it. So I wish I'd kind of, but I wish they taught us practical things like that. That's what I wish more than anything, and not like as well as I should say, not not one or the other, but I wish they amalgamated the two really. So yeah.
I think that's remarkably sensible, and that is, that is the final question. It's been lovely to talk to you. I would like to say as well to anyone watching, this is a great story. I'd really recommend anyone picking it up. It's been wonderful to hear your stories, and to be honest, some of the stories you've told on here today are only scratching the surface of what's in that book. So I
Yeah,
really
yeah.
recommend anyone who's enjoyed watching this today and hearing you chat to go and check it out. So thank you for joining me
Oh,
today. I really appreciate it.
thank you. Thanks for having me. I mean, it's been nice having a conversation.
And to our audience, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next
Yeah.
one.